Is there something I'm missing here? Read this headline and try to think about why this played out as it did. 14-year-old carjacker, murderer, sentenced to detention. Okay, that's it? No, try it as an adult? You see, if we know anything about the story, the perpetrators of this crime were African American. Okay? And this crime was put upon, it looks like it says, ever since the murder of Uber Eats driver Mohammed Anwar by two underage girls, questions have remained over how they should be punished. At one point, the possibility was raised that they might even get off with little more than a slap on the wrist due to their age and various sentencing and reform efforts intended to keep juveniles out of jail. Okay, it's a little different than stealing a purse or even jacking a car. This is murder. Okay? Murder. Regardless if it's only second degree, it's murder. The final result wasn't quite as bad as it might have been. However, now plea deals have been reached with both girls and sentences have been imposed. The younger of the two, who is now 14, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and will be held in juvenile detention until she turns 21. If you look on what happened with Derek Chauvin, he's getting 25 years for second-degree murder. So this woman here, or girl, teenage girl, kills somebody and only gets put in detention until 7 years? Doesn't seem right to me. Doesn't seem fair. The sentence was the maximum sentence requested by prosecutors, according to NBC Washington. The girl, who was 13 at the time, will remain in juvenile detention until she's 21. The unidentified girl, who was one of the teenagers who was arrested in late March for felony murder and armed carjacking for the death of Mohammed Anwar, an Uber Eats driver. And I need a copy editor there, pals. Well, I suppose this is better than just cutting them loose. It all seems a bit generous, doesn't it? And it does, doesn't it? 7 years for second-degree murder. Now, I don't know what sort of probationary period after that is. Regardless, she's getting out. Someone's dead. Doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem fair to me, does it? The young girl had all additional charges for carjacking, robbery, and aggravated assault dropped. The older girl, who pled guilty to felony murder, similarly had all of her other charges dropped and will be also kept in detention until she's 21. Wow. Doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair. It ain't fair. It isn't. Some guy was killed. And these two maniacs are going to be left out or walked free when they're 21. So what happens after that over applicable laws for DC when dealing with juvenile offenders? It would appear that they will simply be released with their records being sealed. Though there may be some parole involved, probably. Is that really justice in this case? What happened to Mohammed Anwar, a legal immigrant who was just trying to earn a living through the gig economy, was something straight out of a horror movie. We can talk about rehab versus incarceration until we're blue in the face, but it's a heavy lift to claim that we're all just talking about 2-year-old children here. Those girls didn't just decide to drop their chalk and walk away from their hopscotch game to one day and go over to after Anwar. They showed up with a taser and were prepared to execute a clinical carjacking. They had clearly already fallen under the influence of a gang. Their names and records are unavailable, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict that this was far from the first violent crime they had engaged in. And there you go, folks. When they talk about white privilege, where's what privilege? These women, girls, were African American, and we don't know their names because all that records are being sealed because they're juveniles. How many times have you seen where a white offender, underage, age of 18, gets tried as an adult? Why weren't these girls tried as an adult? Privilege. African American privilege. In this time of wokeness, they can't throw the book at these women, girls. I should call them women because let's be honest here. They committed a violent act, which ended up one person being killed, Mohammed Anwar. The two women, what happened to them? Most of the charges are dropped, and they're going to be in juvenile detention until they're 21, and they get walked out. And their records are sealed. They can pretty much lead a normal life right after this. What about Muhammad Anwar? What about him? Well, I guess he gets shoved down the memory hole, and his family, basically has to live with this fun fact that these two maniacs are going to walk out of jail or detention when they're age of 21. Doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem fair. Into the story, it says, what will happen with these two girls remains unknown, but the sentences they received certainly appear lenient, given the shocking violence of their crimes and their prospects of reformation, don't look that great. Hopefully they'll prove me wrong, but I won't be holding my breath. And I am not holding my breath as well. You see, the thing is that they went into this with the tools to carjack Mr. Anwar. They had a taser. They pre-planned this. That's a conspiracy. They went in there, killed this guy, and they get away with murder. Yeah, they got to sit in detention until they're 21. So what? That's just 7 years from now. That's what they'll be out in. The 14-year-old will be out in 2028. I think the other one will be out in 2026 or something. Doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem fair to me. So when they talk about privilege, who really has the privilege here? Is it white people? Is it African Americans? Or is it, if you have the correct skin color or the correct political, connections, you won't see jail. You'll get a slap on the wrist and they can move on with your life. Unfortunately for Muhammad Anwar and his family, they got to live with the fact that they have probably a father, a breadwinner, dead because of two women wanted to carjack him and take his life. And all they do is get is detention, 7 years, 5 years respectively, for murder. Oh, I'm sorry. Understand that the one woman, she got first-degree murder, and she still gets out at 21. The 14-year-old gets second-degree murder, still gets out at 21. So I ask you again, who really has the privilege here?